Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Travel, Explore, Celebrate Life by Veena World. This is Neil, and as always, I am joined by Sunila. Hi, Sunila. How are you today?
Hi Neil, all good.
Awesome. So, today we are going to move 3 hours from Mumbai, where we are right now, and we are going to talk about Pune. And the food in Pune is so good that, we could probably do an entire podcast series on the food in
Yeah.
Pune. But like we always do on Travel, Explore, Celebrate Life, we are going to talk about the stories about the food in Pune. Now, there are two perspectives here. There's one perspective that Sunila brings in, having
Mhm,
Sunila's lived in Pune. So
mhm.
Sunila, that would be a different perspective to mine,
Yes.
where I keep visiting Pune, and every time I go to Pune, I always have my own rule. That is, you cannot go to a place that you have already been to. And this has helped me discover so many places in Pune. And I have my show notes over here. So we'll talk about a lot. But Sunila, there are many legacy places in Pune that carry a story, that carry
Mhm.
something of significance. So, having lived there, what do you think is a good point to start?
Neil, I think the first place we must start, and that's kind of the center of the city as well. And you're absolutely right. There are legacy. I mean, these establishments and joints are maybe small, maybe big, maybe however, but they have such a legacy and such fan following. And like you said, you have your rule of not repeating. But when you live in Pune, you kind of learn that loyalty is something else out here because people actually queue up outside these places for food. I mean, I had never seen that coming from Mumbai, that people are standing outside in a queue to just to get in. Like, yes, we do have a lot of popular places as well, but if something's busy, we tend to move on to some other place, right? Okay, this is busy, let's go somewhere. That's not what it is in Pune, and it kind of grows on you. So every Sunday, let's start with what happened every Sunday when I was in Pune, and that has to be breakfast at Vaishali. Vaishali or Rupali, the most famous, iconic restaurants on FC Road. And the best part here, Neil, is not just the food, but it is a sight to behold, and especially in the mornings, because you see people of all kinds. And you know what I learned? I learned that some people are coming here for years, altogether. So every day they meet at Vaishali. Every day they have their filter coffee and then go on, or every Sunday. So there's a lot of rituals that take place here.
So what was that? It was called SPDP, right?
Yes, so that is, I pride myself that coming from Mumbai, we know all about chaat. But when I went to Pune and they said in Vaishali that you have SPDP, and I said, what is SPDP? So that stands for Shev Puri Dahi Puri. So that's another way of shave, whatever. I think we call it Dahi Batata Puri, but they call it Shev Puri Dahi Puri, and it's a little different. It's a little sweeter. I think the curd is a little sweeter, but of course, Vaishali is a South Indian place. So, you would have the sambar and the idlis and dosas and everything else that you want. But SPDP is something quite popular there.
So
And
you know
Neil,
when hmm.
there what I've seen is that at one end, you will see college students, you will also see older generation, you will see people coming there for, I don't know, 40 years, 30 years. So all kinds of people out there.
And from the outside, Vaishali is like has a
Hmm.
frontage on the road, and then there is like all bikes parked over there. So from the outside, it doesn't seem like this restaurant is going to have so many seats. But as you
Yeah.
go inside, you realize that, oh, there is a place at the back where you can sit open air. Then there you go up, there are like different tables on different levels and all of
Yeah.
that. So like at first, the first time I went there with my cousins who live in Pune,
Mhm.
I had not known that, this place is so big. So Vaishali, and then there's Rupali, right?
That's right, Neil. Just a little away is Rupali, and then this is Vaishali. So, incidentally, Rupali was something they called Madras Cafe earlier. And when they started Vaishali started after that. It was called as Madras Health Home. And I'm glad they changed the name actually. I mean, I wouldn't want to go and eat in a health home, but Vaishali sounds nice. Yeah.
Nice, nice. I think that's a very good way to start. Now, see, I'm going to throw questions at you over here because you know more about Pune
Mhm.
than I do. And I always visit Pune for like
Yeah.
work, and then there's always a meal or two with my colleagues over there. But what do you think? Where do you think we should move from Vaishali?
Neil, at Vaishali, you get your daily dose of news. So, there's a saying that if you've not read your newspaper, just go to Vaishali in the morning, because there are so many different classes and all types of professional students, everybody discussing news, that you'll come back with the news of the day for sure. So, I think since we've had our share of that, let's go have a refreshing drink and something that is Pune's very own, something. I was quite amused by its name earlier when I learned that, why can't you just call it something else? Like, we have our milkshakes, but I'm talking of Mastani. So that's something you should never miss when you're in Pune. It's like a meal in itself. So it is really heavy, but it's quite tasty, I must admit. And it's very
So,
sweet.
so there is a story of why this place is named Mastani. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
Neil. So it's
I
not a
remember you
place,
telling me
but
this. Yeah.
Mastani is a drink, and you can get it in many different places all across Pune now.
Okay.
But the two most popular or the most authentic ones are Sujata and Gujar, where you can have the Mastani. So the Mastani is actually like, concoction of milkshake, and you top it with cut fruits, dry fruits, whipped cream, and ice cream also. So just imagine, how indulgent that is. And there are many different flavors, but the most popular flavor is, of course, in the mango season, a mango mastani. There are two funny stories of how it started, folklore, but I guess it might be true. They say that the drink was so good, and when it was introduced, that we have our own style of saying must hai, right? Like, to say that something's great, you say, yeah, wow, must. And that's how it started. People started saying, wow, must hai, and that became Mastani. And then Punekars love their history. So going back to the whole Bajirao Mastani, story, they said, well, it's so good that it's like the beautiful Mastani, and that's how they named it Mastani. And incidentally, you can also get a Bajirao, which is a poor substitute, honestly, because it is nothing but like a lassi that is flavored, or just a flavored lassi. But Mastani is the full works.
I'm not a huge fan of the flavored lassi because lassi by itself is great, but the
Yeah.
moment you add flavor to it, it can be quite sweet, and then the entire essence of a lassi just goes
Yeah.
away. So whenever someone gives me a flavored lassi, I'm just like, let's have something else. But here we are talking about drinks. So, and the tea is something that people
Mhm.
often keep talking about. And here, one place on my list is Amrutal Tulya,
Mhm.
and that is the chai place, correct?
Yes, Neil. So again, Amrut Tulya is not one area. It is kind of a name that is given to a tea stall. Let's call it like a name given to a tea stall. So Amrut means nectar and Tulya means comparable. So they say that the tea is so amazing that it is comparable to nectar. And Amrutulya means like a small shack or a small tea stall where 10-15 people can sit. You have the owner himself sitting there and, serving you tea or taking care of, the finances and everything, and sitting there and observing everything and managing the small tea stall. And that's how it grew, like it became really popular. But there's a story to that, and that is really interesting, because before the Amrutulya tea places, chaha is chai in Marathi. So Amrutulya chai places became famous. Teas were basically served in Irani cafes, so Muslim Irani cafes, and generally people look down upon going out and having tea. But they say that in 1880s or something like that, one of a couple from Rajasthan actually came to Pune because there was drought in Rajasthan, and they wanted some livelihood, and they reached Pune and they started selling bhang. Okay, now after, once they were selling bhang, the narcotic cell obviously, came after them, so they had to move, and they started selling this tea. And that's how the whole Amrut Tulya tea came into being. Of course, after that, and you know what's the best part, they employed a lot of Maharashtrians. They changed their name to a Marathi surname. I think Nartekar or something is what they changed their name to. So they kind of really molded and melted into the surrounding environment and started calling themselves Maharashtrians, and that's how it really became popular. So that's the story of the Amrutulya chai. There are lots of brands today who sell that. There is Yevle, Badshahi, Triveni tea, and it's quite delicious. Also, it's quite filling, and I think it gives you a lot of energy as well.
I think
Um,
it's a tradition in Pune, right? Like, Saturday and Sunday when it's an off, you'll often have people queuing up for tea, people queuing up for breakfast, and all of these things. And it's always difficult to get a spot anywhere we go on a Sunday, because like I'll often go to Pune on a Saturday, spend time with my cousins, and the next morning when we want to go have breakfast, it becomes quite interesting. And speaking of breakfast, there's also misal that is famous in Pune, right?
Yes, Neil, very much. And I think, yes, it is a breakfast item, but you can basically have the misal at any time. Misal, of course, we wonder whether it is really from Pune or it is from Kolhapur or what kinds it is. So misal is nothing. The name misal means a mixture. And again, there are lots and lots of places that do misal today. So the traditional misal is, of course, sprouts, and then you have sprouts, and you have a very spicy, like a gravy or a tari or a rasa that is poured over that. And then, of course, you put the fried farsan over it, and it's really delicious. Now you can have dahi misal as well, so you add the curd to it, or yogurt. I mean, yogurt is curd or buttermilk. So you can have different options. And the latest, I have not tasted this as yet, but the latest to hit Pune is something called a barbecue misal. And Thorat barbecue misal is quite popular. But traditional ones, of course, Bedekar tea shop in Budwarpet sells the traditional misal, which is really quite popular. And
They,
Neil, do you
they
know that?
they
Sorry,
have the spicy and the mild misal also. So for people who don't have
yeah.
the spicy, they have the mild version too.
That's
But
right.
yeah.
And Bedekar misal is little sweeter. That is what they say. Some other places they actually add poha also to the misal. So that is also done. But Bedekar, I think, whether we talk of that tea stall, Amrut Tulya tea stalls, or like a Bedekar misal, or these small places, I think what is really interesting is that the way in which the communication and the happens between like the shop owner and the people who are coming there. It's like one community. So it kind of helps you build up the community. And that's the story of Bedekar Misal as well. So he was known as Anna Bedekar. Anna means like a elder brother. And he would call whoever came into the shop also as Anna. And people who came in to have the misal also called him Anna. So they were always like, Anna, bread chahiye kya? And Anna, will you have some more misal? So that's how the whole Anna misal or the Anna Bedekar misal became popular. And the difference here, Neil, is that they serve bread and not pav. So, I think the owners really give a lot of attention to these joints in Pune. And maybe that's the secret of their taste as well.
Giving bread instead of pav is actually a good idea according to me, because
Mhm.
misal, like in those two paws, you just get filled up, and then like pav bloats you, right? So if you have
Mm,
bread, like you're enjoying the essence, the taste, and
mm,
everything of the misal. And I think that's what's more important, that oil that is put over the misal and all of that, like that, and
mm.
that really, really does it. But moving from the spicy misal, let's move to sweets. And when you talk about sweets, there's one thing that is super famous in Pune, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's Chitre Bandhu.
Mhm.
And I'm quite surprised that they've not come out with a IPO right now, because they are so big.
I'm sure they're
And
working towards it.
exactly. And I have heard this, that in Pune, people often love taking that afternoon nap, is what everyone
Mhm.
says. And Chitre Bandhu also stay shut from 2 to 4 or something like that. What's
Yes.
the exact story?
I think, yeah, so there were a lot of jokes around it as well, that the shop is closed in the afternoon and they needed their siesta, they needed the time. But I find it interesting that people also accept that, and people really value that. And they actually rush to go in the morning to buy the fresh bakarwadis and the fresh sweets from here. And my favorites, Neil, with Chitare are, of course, the Amba Barfi, which is the mango barfi. And I was introduced to this form of gulab jamun from Chitare, which is a dry gulab jamun and is coated with sugar, like as if
Wow.
like
Oh
sugar.
yeah, I know what you're talking
Do
about.
you remember that? So
Yes,
it is
yes,
like
yes.
a dry gulab jamun. I mean, the gulab jamun itself is sweet and coated in sugar, but everybody just seems to love it, and it is quite delicious. So those two are really very popular. And of course, with Chitare, other than the sweets, the famous bakarwadi, very spicy. So apparently the recipe came from Gujarat, and then they said it's too sweet, let's make it spicy. And I'm so glad they did. And Neil, till date, they say that Every day, whatever bakarwadi they make is sold. It's sold for the day. There is no leftover. And with the new amazing, they've automated their plants. They're really growing. It's amazing that they can still sell so much.
Yeah, and I can totally imagine, because whenever someone's coming from Pune, that
Mm.
Chitri Bandhu Bakarwadi is something that we often always ask them to get.
Not just Pune, one of my crazy friends, we were happily sitting in Lonavala on a holiday, and she gets a craving and she just wouldn't listen to me. And my friend Reena, and she said, no, I have to go to Pune and buy bakarwadi and gulab jamun. And I said, are you mad? She said, no, I just want it right now. So we drove from Lonavala to Pune, and this was during the lockdown. The main Deccan shop was not open, but we found like one of their shops that was open. We drove there, we bought things, and we came back, and we actually had it that evening. So that should tell you how popular Chittare Bakarwadi and the sweets are.
Well, I'll only say this, that Reena, if you're listening to this and you've reached this part of the show, well, I did not know that you had so much dedication for Bakarwadi. We'll send you some the next time we are in Pune.
Sure.
Okay, perfect. So Chitra Bandhu is done. Now, Sunila, I have heard and I have tried also a lot of the thalis in Pune. Now, you get thalis all across India, and the thali is uh, quite well, organized. There is a papad, there are two sabzis. Sometimes if you're a non-veg
It's
thali,
an
there's like
entire meal.
two non-veg things. There are now places that have come up with like massive thalis where 4 or 5 people can enjoy them. There is a badshahi thali that a place has.
Yeah.
A place has like the um kadaknath chicken thali. There is seafood thali, and we've tried so many places like Rahul Inaund. That is one of my
Yeah.
favorite places. The last time we were there, we went to
Nisarga. Yeah.
Nisarg
Nisarga.
seafood,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
had the thali, like
Yeah.
the thali or something like that over there.
Yeah.
But in Pune, there are also festive thalis or occasional thalis, right? Tell me something about that.
Neil, so if you want to have a thali in Pune, I think you should go twice, because you have to have the non-veg thali, of course, it's really good. And then you have to have the vegetarian thali as well. Because there are lots of places who do that. So you have Shreyas, Durvankur, Sukanta, and many, many more. We can't list all of them. But what they are known for is what is called as the Pancha Pakwana Thali, which means it is the festive thali. And people like actually go out on festivals to taste this. So Ganpati is coming now. Maybe we should do it, because they have a modak thali. So you are given as many modaks as you can eat. Then at Diwali, in fact, all the festivals are starting. That's good reason to get there. During Diwali, you have the Basundi thali, and of course, the summer you have the Amras thali. So eat as much as you want, and these are so popular because these are at festivals you want to make nice things. And I think it's quite a good idea that the entire family is going out, so that no one has to cook at home on a festival, and you enjoy a really unlimited thali where you can have all these delicacies. In a lot of the college and a lot of the office crowd also does that. So for office parties, the thalis work best because it's fast, quick. You don't have to really think of the menu and what to order, and you have a delicious meal.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I
that's
quite
how the
agree. And
festivals
then,
work.
Pune has a lot of students. Pune has a
Mhm.
lot of MNCs that have moved there.
Mm. Yeah.
A lot of the expats are moving there. So you'll see a lot of Japanese and Korean places coming up because, Japanese
Mm.
and Korean people require that. And to add to that, the working culture in Pune is fast, right? Like,
Yeah.
walk into a lunch home, have an amazing thali and get out. And like, I would really like to try this Modak thali that you're talking about, because who doesn't
Mm.
like Modak? And that's something that I will definitely try out the next time. And listeners, if you think you would like to recommend any of the thalis, do write to us at neil@veenaworld.com or sunil@veenaworld.com. But Sunila, let's come back to our episode.
Mhm.
Now, we started with Vaishali, we went all across. Now, Sinhagad is something that is there in Pune, and I have heard that having a meal at the top of Sinhagad is also an experience that one should not miss.
Definitely not to be missed. And I remember, in fact, when I went up there, we had a few Brits with us. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but we had some friends from Britain. and they wanted to do a trek as well. We had a workshop in Pune, so we did the workshop for Great Britain, and after that we had a day off and we said let's go climbing up Siagat. So we hiked all the way up. It takes just 45 minutes, 1 hour to get up. And the best part is once you go up, that the villagers also kind of pre-cook the food, or some of them cook it on top as well, and you have a lot of small stalls here. So you go up there and you can have a really good meal, and so economical, so good. On the way up also there are some stalls, so if you're thirsty you can have limbu pani, and I can never resist that. So like soda or just with water, you have that. You have some raw mango if it's in season, and or jamuns that you have, so some fruits and stuff on the way. And then you reach up and you can have a really nice meal there. You can see them, the villagers actually making the bhakris, like, which is our local bread, and they are making that on the hot tawas. And so you can have a pitla bhakri, or you can have kanda bhaji, which was so delicious. And they also sell you yogurts which are preset in small pots. So really, really tasty food on top, and definitely not to be missed. We couldn't have enough. We kept having the bhakris again and again because they're nice and hot, and it just keeps coming at you. So
Yeah, it's like, while you're trekking, the Nimbu Pani on your trek to the top is something that
mhm.
you should continue having, definitely have. And
Yeah,
then the Pitla Bhakri, the chicken rasa bhakri, the Zunka Bhakar,
yeah.
the thetsa that is there, the mirchi
Yes,
thetsa, which is
yes.
incredible. So I would definitely recommend this, not only on Sihagat, but like if you go to any other
Mhm.
fort, there is like always a village at the foot of the
Yeah.
fort. You can order it there and you'll get food at the top. Now, as we reach the end of the episode, Sunila, I don't think we can leave out bakeries and cafes
Mm,
outside like this
sure.
episode. And there is of course Good Luck Cafe, which is very near to Veena World and in Pune.
Yeah,
And then there are so many
Addict.
cafes, and Pune has expanded so much. I remember when you used to live there, most of the places used to be in Koregaon Park or in camp, as you would call it.
Mm,
Now Pune has expanded so much. There are different places that have come up all around Pune. Like if you just think about the Veena World offices, there used to be one Veena World office. Now there are like two Veena World branch offices, and there are more than 15 sales partners across Pune. So that is incredible. But when we talk about bakeries, when we talk about cafes, what comes to your mind?
Neil, you're absolutely right. Like Pune is really expanding, and Punekars, also love traveling. That's something I have seen. Just as much as they have their own, rituals and other things, they all love to travel. And one thing I have seen, which is very common amongst all Punekars, is their loyalty. They are really loyal. Once they like the service, be it a Veena word, or be it Chitare, or be it, something like a Kayani bakery. So we are talking of bakeries, and I have to start with Kayanis, because even today, if you need planning to go to the bakery. I mean, when does that happen? Because if you're late, you miss out on the most delicious food that you could ever have. So the Shrewsbury biscuits and the mawa cake is only sold till it's there. So once it's over, it's over. You go to the bakery and you say, and they say, sorry, you're late, it's over. So every time now when I'm going to Pune, or if I'm about to go, we try and plan it that you reach early to pick it up, or you get someone else to go there and pick it up for you or whatever, but make sure you do that, because the I think the recipes again are age old. They are, perfected, and so good. So macaroons, Shrewsbury biscuits, sponge biscuits, eclairs, or even cream rolls. Cream rolls is something that is really popular in Pune, and the list never ends. So that is again quite famous. There are also other bakeries. So you have Persian bakery, and then Santosh bakery. These are very popular. So even for things like patties or other things. So other than the traditional Maharashtrian snacks, which you see all across the city, like thali pit, sabudana vadas, and pohas, and kothimbir vadis, and all of that, picking up a patties from a bakery, picking up the sweets, picking up cakes, pastries, whole wheat buns, all of that is going on. And yeah, you're right, it's growing so much that to talk of new age cuisine, or to talk of the cafes, it'll take an entire new episode. We can't do it all in one, but Pune has really a lot to offer.
Yeah, because I was watching a few videos on YouTube the other day, and I was watching this YouTube where you can have tandoori chicken momos, chili chicken
Yeah,
momos, or like
yeah,
tandoori chicken dumplings that are
yeah.
there. There are places that are just famous for like their Maggie. There are so many places that, like, everyone keeps talking about places like Malacca Spice and all of that, and they are exponentially popular. But I think the essence of Pune and Pune's identity is these legacy joints and the
Yes.
loyalty that, the people of Pune show these legacy joints. So it's a huge salute to all of you who are foodies and in Pune. And if you have never been to Pune, please go to Pune and try out the food, because you will not be having 3 meals in a day. You'll have to have 2 lunches, you'll have to have 3 dinners, you'll have to have 2 breakfasts, and you will still not be satisfied
And there are
entirely. Yeah.
lots of hiking places around to
Oh
burn
yeah,
all
that's
that
true.
off. So stay in Pune and explore all the surrounding areas from there. It's really easy to get anywhere. Within an hour or two, you can do a lot of things from Pune.
Yeah, indeed. The next time, Sunila, we'll do an episode on the nightlife. We'll do an episode
Mhm.
on, like, the street food of Pune, because that is completely different and both like aspects are taken care
Yes,
of.
Neil, and even the open air restaurants. So Pune is really popular for that. The garden restaurants, the rooftop restaurants. It's good weather throughout the year almost. So they really enjoy their open air.
We'll definitely do that. Awesome. Sunila, any closing notes?
Neil, I think it's just amazing that there is just so much to offer, and I think this weekend actually I'm going to Pune, so I can't decide where to start and where to end. But there is one dish that I think we didn't really talk about, which is of course a part of the thali as well. But Pune is typically we talk of vegetarian food, but if you're going to have non-vegetarian food, then definitely try the mutton bhakri and something known as arni bhat. Now, arni bhat is nothing but rice cooked in the stock of the mutton, and it is to die for. So that should be on your list if you are a non-vegetarian. If you're a vegetarian, definitely one of the festive thalis is something you have to have there. And there are new restaurants coming up all the time. Restaurants are opening, so I think it's a great time to go there
And
and
if you're going to
enjoy.
Pune, Sunila, please get something back for us. Probably something from Chitre
Bakarwadi for sure.
Bandu
Yes.
or like the Kalyan Bhel that is there. So we look
Yes,
forward to
of
receiving that,
course.
and we'll see you on Sunday. But thank you so much, Sunila. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you so much for all of your support. If you would like to tell us about the best places to eat in Pune, tell us in the comments or write to us at neil@veenaworld.com or sunila@veenaworld.com.